Chuckanut Drive. In the spring of 1916, after $135,000 had been spent working on the construction of a functional roadway for the newly manufactured internal combustion engine vehicles, Chuckanut Drive became open to the public, becoming the very first scenic highway of the Pacific Northwest. The word Chuckanut comes from a native word meaning long beach far from a narrow entrance, presumably describing the Bellingham Bay. Chuckanut Drive had its beginnings in the mid-1890s, originally as a rough terrain logging road.
The thing about a road at that time, it really wasn't a realistic idea to have a road, nor really to need a road per se, because everything went by boat. But really the 1890s would have been kind of the beginning of what we think of as Chuckanut Drive, and that's when it was known as the Waterfront Road. And this was really a farm-to-market road that served Skagit County and Whatcom County.
In 1892, the Great Northern Railway brought the right-of-way to this road, and it was discontinued. The road moved through Skagit County following a route similar to today's Chuckanut Drive. Washington State Legislature allocated funds for an improved road to run from Bellingham to Bow, Washington in 1905, but funding ran out after only a few miles were completed. The roadway was abandoned, and it wasn't until a wealthy entrepreneur residing in Bellingham would step in.
And really it was CX Larrabee, Charles Xavier Larrabee, who was looking to develop Chuckanut Drive. This would give access from Skagit to Fairhaven, and it really was the idea of getting to Fairhaven versus New Whatcom. So that farm-to-market waterfront road was established early on by the Larrabee interests.
Larrabee, born in Portville, New York in 1843, would move to Bellingham in 1890 and find himself becoming associates with Nelson Bennett, the founder of Tacoma, Washington. The farm-to-market interest of Charles Larrabee would spark an interest in the development of a road that could not only be used for transportation of essential goods, but of another lucrative opportunity as well.
As a rival to what was going on with Chuckanut Drive, where we're seeing Chuckanut Drive be developed as the internal combustion vehicles are being developed, so modern trucks and cars. And that's really when Chuckanut Drive, as we think about it today, comes into its own. We always talk about 1916, it's done, but it'd be another 4 years before it was paved completely. So this was an automobile road, which really didn't, again, hit its stride until after World War I, which ends in 1918. So in 1920, when you pave it, now this new thing called the motor car created a new thing called the motor tourist. So now the regular folks have automobiles for the first time. Now again, this is a pricey thing, so not everybody has them, but people who are traveling about can afford an automobile and use Chuckanut Drive. And it's really interesting to see early photos of Chuckanut Drive with early automobiles, because people stop on the road, get out, look at things, have their picture taken, get back in the car. Something you would never do today, right? It was a tourist road. I do want to show you this picture because this really captures the early Chuckanut Drive. And if you think about this photo, what are we doing here? We're stopping on the road to get out, admire the view, let's have a sandwich, let's take a photograph. I mean, you've driven Chuckanut Drive. Inevitably, you get someone behind you who's not happy with the speed you're going and needs you to go faster. It's such a motorway now, and I love this where it's nonchalant. Let's take our time. Getting there is what we're doing. In other words, the trip. It's the trip that we're enjoying and our company together versus when are we going to be there, This was part of Larrabee's dream. He passed away in 1914, but his son Charles and his business partner Cyrus Gates, this whole Pacific Realty concept was to make Fairhaven a tourist destination.
Charles Larrabee had a vision of a scenic drive running along Samish and Chuckanut Bays, and aided by his business partner Cyrus Gates, surveyed parts of the road and obtained funding to build the Fairhaven portion in 1907. Larrabee saw the opportunity to create a route that would connect Whatcom to Fairhaven through Skagit territory and recognized that this could become a potential tourist attraction.
But it's kind of romantic when you think it back in the day when getting into a motor car and driving down a pretty much a deserted road. It's very romantic. And your destination is a warm hotel bed in Bellingham, Washington, and you can go hit the town. And I like that concept, and you'll notice that just about every city markets themselves with that. Come try our local breweries, come try our restaurants. We're kind of quirky. Everybody's kind of quirky. That was the beginning of that whole way of thinking about tourism as a vital part of your economy, was Chuckanut Drive. And so Chuckanut Drive was the scenic highway, which is kind of an oxymoron if you think about it, because you shouldn't be, if you're driving, you shouldn't be looking at the scenery. You should be concentrating on driving. But that's a scenic highway. Now, by this time, you had the railroads here, and the railroad, obviously offered the services to farmers, and that really wasn't a particularly financially feasible answer for farmers. So lo and behold, another contender comes in, and that is Interurban, which opens in August of 1912.
In 1914, the Interurban Railway was robbed by 3 unknown highwaymen in what the Seattle Times called a Jesse James-style robbery. The 3 men would never be found. Just one example of criminal activity that would beset the road soon after its foundation.
Chuckanut was a place where there were a number of stills where people had enough seclusion that they could undertake the distilling of spirits.
Chuckanut Drive's isolated direct route would prove irresistible to bootleggers during Prohibition smuggling contraband from Canada. In 1922, the Seattle Times would report on a successful cocaine bust within their city limits. According to the article, federal agents found the narcotics to have originated from Vancouver and began looking for drug runners along Chuckanut Drive. Larrabee's highway would come to earn the nickname Liquor Runner Road, a name that would linger on even after Prohibition came to an end by the 1930s.
It's become kind of a funny thing now, or just kind of a humorous aside, and you kind of want the adventure but the rum runners who came into Chuckanut, you've got Victoria and you've got Vancouver, big metropolitan areas where booze was available and you could bring it in. So that did happen.
Charles Larrabee was approached by Governor Ernest Lister in 1913 about donating land surrounding Chuckanut Drive in order to create a state park. Larrabee passed away before the deal could be done, but his wife Frances finalized the agreement in 1915. Larrabee passed away before he could see his newly funded road come to fruition, and with it, the growth of a community around Chuckanut Drive. Charles Larrabee's memory lives on through the Larrabee State Park and the thriving community surrounding his work, a true testament to the amazing foresight of an extraordinary man.